Hey everybody, I'm Andrew,
I'm Dan.
and this is the Hype Mind. Welcome back.
We're going to be talking about detachment. Detachment's going to affect you in different areas of your life, and it could be attached to anything, attached to material things, attached to the past, attached to money. Attachment, we're attached. I think it's more of our attachment is a normal thing. It was a way of us surviving. But we need to learn how to handle that in a certain way.
Right, you got to be able to identify when it's not good and when you need to detach. And so we're going to talk about detachment and some tips for ways
detaching.
to detach.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Jinx.
Here we go. So first tip is an exercise is to visualize not having what you're attached to. Even if you're not getting rid of it, you notice you're attached to it. Go through the motions in your head of getting rid of something. I mean, a lot of times I feel like, for me at least, I realized that I was attached to the little things I have. And I just went through the motions of getting rid of it in my head. And that gave me a different mindset of this isn't important.
And seeing yourself without it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. What were you saying two was?
Next step is to own little, right? It's natural to get to grow and have attachments for the things that you own, right? It's like the things you own end up owning you. So the thing is owning little, and that goes into the next tip, is cleaning out periodically, getting rid of things, right? And just exercising, practicing, owning little, and being ready for change.
Well, and that's, again, detachment can come in many different shapes and forms, right? The whole cleaning out is basically a reality check. This is where I am. This is where I should be. This is what my house looks like. This is what I don't need in it. And it's important to remember that detachment isn't just material possessions. I mean, you can be attached to a person, which is a material object, so to speak, because a person is physically there. But you can look at people in your life and be like, I don't need these. I shouldn't have these people in my life. You can look at items in your life and be like, I really don't need everything I have in my house. I need to. I have too many items. I don't even use. I have 6 different sets of silverware for special occasions, and I don't even use 6 of them. So maybe it's time to get rid of 5 of those. I mean, there's detachments from addictions, from substances, from drinking. I mean, it's a very broad scope of things, but really it's about that reality check. You talk about cleaning out what you have, right? And looking at what you have. And that's what a reality check is. It's like, hey, look, this is where I am. This is where I shouldn't be. This is where I need to be. This is how to get there. Let's get rid of these things, that are cluttering my life, physically or, mentally or whatever. And then, like the less clutter you have, the better. More objects you have in your house, well, you either have to expand your house, which maybe you can't afford, or you need to clean it out so that you can actually make it from from one room to the next without tripping every 5 seconds or stepping on all the Legos or whatever.
Right. One thing I wanted to mention was attachments to outcomes.
Yeah, that's another good one. Yeah.
One thing you guys should do. Yeah, exactly. Expectation. One thing you guys should do is figure out what you're attached to.
That's that reality check.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because again, those are the same as material possessions, relationships, addictions. It's like you need to clean your mind out too. You need to be like, well, this is what I'm expecting, and I'm really demanding this from people, and it's not reasonable, and it's hurting me, it's hurting people, and I need to detach from this expectation or this idea or this belief or this thought that's actually hurting me and my life.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I know a lot of people who are like, oh, I can't quit this job, or I can't give up this thing. Like I believe this, like I'm a part of this, I'm attached to this, I'm in love with this. This is a part of me. This is who I am. And it's like, you know, that's your ego speaking. That's the identity you've built for yourself. So you need to make sure that's really who you want to identify as and who you actually identify as, and you need to see if you need to alter that identity in that case.
Right. Yeah, for sure. The next one is to be, next tip I would say is to be grateful for change. Change is going to happen, whether that's losing something you're attached to, is to when that comes, right? When that change comes, instead of seeing it in a negative light, see it in a positive light.
Mm-hmm.
And see it as an opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, an opportunity.
That's right. Associate good outcomes helps you to be flexible with that change and open to that change occurring.
Mm-hmm. We go back to the one we were talking about previously, and how there can be an even balance, right? It's natural to be attached to things, but sometimes it can go overboard. We got to watch ourselves.
Yeah.
Another tip is be around people that are, let's say you're attached to money in your spending habits, right? And you know that's a problem for you. Be around people that don't have that attachment that you do. Be around somebody who,
Aves.
I'm not saying that, to spend your money unresponsibly is a good thing. But let's say find somebody, hang out with people that are detached in maybe the areas that you're not detached in, right? Who spends their money wisely without holding back.
That kind of brings up one of my tips for detachment, and that's find something else to be attached to, right? So, if you have a bad attachment to alcohol, for example, like go hang out with people who aren't alcoholics, because they probably won't let you drink, right? Because they're not going to be drinking, and they're gonna be removing themselves from that, so they probably won't be putting themselves in that position. Not always, but very probable. But it's also kind of the same thing. It's like, well, if this is your problem, or this is something you are having a hard time stepping away from, look for something to substitute it, something better, something good, right? Like, alcohol is another great example, but again, it could be an outcome, an expectation, a relationship, a material possession. But if we're using the example of alcohol, you're like, oh, I really like, or an even better example would be like cookies. That would be much simpler to break this down for people. If you love sugar, maybe the best thing for you to do is look for a healthy substitute for that. It's like, and I can give you a personal example. I mean, I could eat cookies all day. I love sugar. Like, I got a sweet tooth. Guilty. But how I cope with that to be healthy and to have good practices is I'll look for other things to replace that, to have better attachments, so to speak, right? So instead I'll go for like the cocoa covered almonds or something, which are like 5 grams of sugar, and they're healthy, they're almonds, and it's basically just cocoa dusting on almonds, right? But they still taste great. They still give me a bit of that sweetness that I need, but they also don't let me fall into this unhealthy habit of eating and desire. And so if you have an attachment to something, look for something you can replace that with that's good for you, right? Because sometimes you need to slowly wean off of things in order to be able to give them up.
Yeah, that's a great point.
the other two big things is, and we kind of talked about this is the reality check idea, right? You got to know yourself. You know, you mentioned that, Dan, and that's what the reality check's all about, is where am I at, right? But taking that a step further is knowing yourself. If you have issues with what you're holding on to in life, you need to know yourself. You need to be like, I am addicted to this, or I am holding on to that relationship, or I am doing this or that. Like, I refuse to let go of that. And so, I mean, it starts with knowing there's a problem. And so that's why knowing yourself is important, because you can be like, yeah, that's my weakness. Because when you know your weaknesses, there's a greater chance of you avoiding them in the future. You know, if you know that you're allergic to peanut butter, you're not going to eat peanut butter. You know, you're not going to end up, you know, in the hospital from eating peanut butter, because you know to avoid it. So knowing yourself enables you to recognize your attachment issues to certain things, so you can avoid those certain things.
Great tip.
And
great tip.
Yeah. Did you have anything you want to add on top of that? I have one more after that.
No, go ahead.
And so the last one would be practice self-denial, because that's also very, very beneficial to the weaning process. You know, an attachment is basically a connection with something. You probably an emotional connection. You know, you want it, you love it, you're addicted to it. Who knows? You know, like, you're hooked. And so something that helps get unhooked is to practice unhooking yourself from anything. Because if you know, maybe you're not great at sports, but if you go outside every day and run, you're going to be better at sports, because at least you're going to be able to run across the field while playing soccer, and the basketball court while playing basketball. So it's like, if you're having a hard time stepping away from something like maybe alcohol or sugar, then work on stepping away from other things, so you can actually recognize you have the capability to step away from things, and you can actually build up that practice, that endurance. And then you can face the actual problem and accomplish separating yourself from it, because you've had practice separating yourself from other things, so you know you can do it.
I love
that's
it.
my 2 cents on that.
I love it, because I mean, this is tips for practicing detachment, right? And the big thing is practicing. It's actually going through the motions. And like I said, there's, you know, if you can't get rid of something, right? Or if you can't get rid of something immediately, a detachment, that's why I put in visualizing, being without it.
And bring it into the picture, make it a part, because if you don't make it a part, you're never going to look at it. You got to bring it into your perception, because if it's not in your perception, well, then it remains unnoticed and ignored. What's not seen is very rarely paid attention to.
Yeah.
Unless it's heard. But, like, you know, that the same thing. If you don't hear it, you're not paying attention to it. If you don't see it, you're not paying attention to it. So you need to bring it into your scope of senses, or sensory. But yeah, you know, Daniel started off the video here solid with some great ways to detach. And so, you know, take what you need from this. But the thing is, you can head it off early. You don't have to wait until you have an attachment that you need to detach from. You can start practicing methods to detach, so that if it ever comes up in the future, because it's just good discipline. It's good self-care.
And it's natural to be attached to things. That's what we're going to do naturally as human beings. Just grow attachment for things that we have, things that we own.
And it's good to be able to know you have the ability and the exercised ability, right? It's not just a tool in the box. It's a well-oiled tool in the box. You know that when you reach in the box to use it, because you need it, it's ready to use. You know, it's like sharpening the sword once a week. When the battle comes out of nowhere, you're always going to be ready for that battle. So if you find yourself in the future in that situation, we've got some great tips to help you step away from it and disconnect from it. We also have some great tips to help you plan for the potential future attachment. So,
all right, guys.
That's
Thanks for
all.
watching. Yep.
Yeah. Peace out.
Peace.